Hello everybody and welcome back. Been a while since I've done a video about painting a custom at all. In fact, I've made another custom between them, but I just didn't record anything for it. I'll probably do an overview of that at some point. I did take pictures while I was building it, which is what I did for this one, because honestly recording the actual painting process would be a pain, because there'd be a lot of footage for me to sift through, and also my process of painting is not well suited to recording, to be honest. Took me like 4 days to do this, and most of it was airbrushing anyway, which is super boring, so I'll just sort of explain the process over some images I took during the actual build, and then we'll just sort of show it off at the end. So one quick thing before we get into it. I haven't seen anybody else make a Tarak custom. I don't know if this is the first one and I've just sort of missed it, or if this is genuinely the first time someone's made a custom of Tarak. It's probably the first SDCS custom of it anyway. So starting off with the most important part, this is actually the first kit I've ever customized where I've done something notable to the actual sculpt. In this case, the faceplate that Tarak has, because, you know, it's blatantly based on the Armageddon Getter Noir, but this wasn't too bad. I don't have any plow plate, so what you're seeing right now is actually the runner. The little nameplate piece. I've seen people use that, and it's polystyrene anyway, so I just cut that to the right size and cemented it onto the face. I did have to remove the chin, both the red and the green, and I ended up taking off the little side stripes as well on the green piece, just to make it easier later on. Then I just sort of trimmed down these parts a little bit more to get the shaping better, and I broke out my Mr. Hobby Mr. White Putty, which I've had for like over 6 months and just haven't gotten around to using. The warnings on the box are a little bit on the terrifying side, and so I was kind of off-put actually using it, but honestly, having used it, the problem isn't with the potentially carcinogenic compounds, it's the fact that it dries as soon as it hits the air and is an absolute nightmare to work with. I really need to get some putty with some more drying time. This is not that good, to be honest. It also dries like kind of sickly yellow, which I mean you have to paint over it anyway, but for Mr. White Putty it doesn't dry very white. But this was just pretty easy sculpting. Took 2 coats to get it sort of smooth because it shrunk a little bit the first time. Then while this was drying, I painted the green on the parts. The regular Shin Getter green is more of a teal-ish, aquamarine kind of color. And so I had to paint it the more sort of Ninja Turtle ooze lime green, which is mostly Mr. Hobby yellow green. I use Accretion because I just like water-based paints more and less harmful fumes. I dealt enough with that when I was using spray paint when I was younger. I kind of avoid it as much as possible now. But that turned out a little bit dark-ish, so I added just a touch of Vallejo Mecha Color Yellow just to bring it up into a slightly more lime, and that was basically perfect. I can't give you an exact amount for that, but just sort of eye it if you want to do this yourself. Speaking of yellow, I do want to quickly point out I did make the eyes a very slightly more pale yellow, which is again Vallejo Mecha Color Yellow with a little bit of Vallejo Mecha Color Pure White, just to bring it up a little bit because the eyes are actually a little bit more pale on Tarak. Then I painted the wings, which I started by airbrushing Vallejo Mecha Color red on it, but it didn't quite turn out the color I wanted. Also, I should point out, I didn't prime the wings because the purple plastic, I was anticipating that would dull the red a little bit to give it a bit more of a dark-ish red that kind of matched the dark red on the original plastic, and it did. Do have to be a little bit more careful with them because I didn't prime it, but it's the wings anyway, it's not that big a deal. But because the Vallejo red didn't give me the color I quite wanted, I ended up swapping out about halfway through coating it with Mr. Hobby flat red. Again, Accretion. All of my Mr. Hobby are Accretion. And that ended up dulling it down a little bit because the flat red isn't quite as vibrant as the Vallejo red, and gave me pretty much the exact color I was looking for. Then I just top coated with some Krylon Color Max flat top coat, I think is what it's called. And I used that for all of this, just so you know ahead of time. Aside from the green, earlier I did top coat that with a gloss Vallejo varnish, just because I wanted it to have a shinier look to it, and it turned out okay. Then I primed all the other parts with just a white Krylon primer. Just a thin coat, just enough to get it to stick. And I airbrushed the rings on the elbows with Mr. Hobby Dark Gray 1 US Naval Vessel. I'm looking at the actual jar right now. And that was pretty much the perfect light gray for this. Its color matches to the line art is pretty much dead on. I also ended up hand brushing that onto the rings on the upper thigh just to bring a little bit more into it. The joints on the whole thing are supposed to be that color, but kind of prefer the black inner frame, so I left that. But I still wanted to bring it in a little bit more, so I did that. The black stripe around the whole thing is just Vallejo pure black. Next up, I did the dark gray on most of the body, including the chest area, which I painted first. And that is 2 parts Vallejo medium gray with 1 part pure black. Then I masked off the centerpiece of the chest and painted all the black, which is 20 parts pure black to 1 part medium gray, and it just got the off black enough so that, you know, the panel lines and the shadows still catch. Pure black would have been a little bit too dark. Once all that was done, I masked off the black stripes on the mask and mixed up some slightly more pale gold, which was using Vallejo Mecha color again, of course, which was gold and their light steel. I can't give you an exact measurement on what I mixed there because it was kind of a weird color to mix, and I just sort of worked with it until I got the right shade. I hand painted the gold on the ears, the little Getter Boomerang extenders. I still don't know what the proper name of those are. And of course the faceplate. And being the Butterfingers I am, I managed to drop it into the paint, and yeah. You can see the sparkling on this. I ended up having to repaint the ears. I cleaned up the lines on the faceplate with just pure black, which is why it's pretty much a shadow there. I think it looks good to have that little bit of pure black. Did a light wash just in the panel lines on the dark gray and gold parts, just add that little bit extra depth to them, which was just pure black with a lot of water added to it. And after that I just hand painted all the red stripes on the body parts, give it all a flat top coat, let it cure for a couple hours, probably should have waited a little bit longer, and then put it together. And now I'm recording this like 2 days later, now that the paint is cured a little bit better, and I'm not worried about scratching it during this. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, by the way, because I wouldn't mind doing more like this. I don't really enjoy the heavy editing of regular style painting work-in-progress videos, but I can do this. This isn't too bad. I really enjoyed this project. Track has great colors, and the SD Shin Getter is just a really good kit anyway. The faceplate turned out really, really good considering this is my first time doing that kind of thing. I'm genuinely pretty proud of my work there. Anyway, you guys probably know the drill by now. Subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. Go follow me on Twitter if you feel like it. Check out my reviews. I have a couple of reviews of Getter kits if you want to watch those. And, as always, until next time, happy building.